I call Dr. Parmjit Palmer.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me pleasure to rise and speak in support of the Social Security Amendment Bill number 3. This bill about the treatment of weekly compensation payments and assistance for students' accommodation costs makes the legislation sturdy so that we treat people the same way. Mr. Speaker, I do recognize that all government spending is attached to some form of social value, but this is about balance. The bill dictates the closing of loopholes in the Social Security Act which people can use to receive an unfair increase or different levels of support even when they are in exactly the same kind of circumstances. The passing of this bill will allow for students and beneficiaries in similar circumstances to receive equal levels of monetary support. This is vital as it will allow everyone an equal opportunity and not provide unintentional benefits to those who knowingly or unknowingly see fit to slip through any apparent loopholes. It is vital that this is looked at, as a loophole does mean an act is flawed, and we are striving to correct the issue of students and beneficiaries garnering unequal monetary support. Mr. Speaker, as one can imagine, this is coming at an extra expense to the taxpayer, which is something we should try to minimize. The loophole regarding student payments in the Social Security Act allows students to access accommodation supplement if they choose not to receive a student allowance. The returns from study accrue to individuals as well as to society. So the clear policy behind the student loan and allowance system is to share the cost between students and the government. Students should not be reliant on any other benefits and grants which result in the government paying a greater share of student support. And the Social Security Act states that accident compensation payments from ACC should be deducted dollar for dollar from any benefit that a person receives. A loophole in the Act means that it does not include weekly payments coming from a credited employer. This bill will validate the past and current practices of deducting payments dollars for dollar from benefit payments. For example, if a DPP recipient is paid $150 per week compensation with no other income but the DPP, they would have their benefit reduced by $150 if the compensation is from ACC. If the compensation is paid by a credited employer, their benefit will not be reduced at all. Mr. Speaker, the deduction should apply equally to compensation whether it is paid by ACC or a credited employer. It would be unfair that a person who receives compensation from a credited employer would be better off than a person who receives weekly compensation from ACC. That simply would not be fair. So the overall purpose of the bill is to ensure that people in similar circumstances are treated equally. This is also about responsibly managing the government's finances, so taxes are spent wisely on the services families need. MST has estimated the total cost of this loophole at $700,000 per annum. And Mr. Speaker, an MST report states that a legislative fix is the only option to maintain the intention of the policy intent that avoids increased fiscal cost, which adds to unequal monetary gain for people in exactly the same situations. This existing provision may reduce the financial incentive to return to work. So this is another drawback of this loophole. Since the combined income from the benefit and compensation can be higher in some cases, as a government, we are always looking at ways to get people into employment. This is and has been a major goal of ours, and the drawbacks of unemployment were made glaringly evident during the recession we had in 2008. The fact that we as a nation have reached an unemployment percentage of 5.6% shows the amount of work we have put and its positive effects on our economy. With an increased percentage of people choosing to receive benefit instead of getting into jobs is not good for our nation and our nation's growth. This is not ideal as the taxpayer becomes responsible for these funds and their money isn't able to be used in an efficient and effective manner, especially when there is a large number of people on benefits. As well as this, those that are unemployed are unable to help better their communities and our country. Their skills and talents aren't being used or recognized in a positive manner. Dependency on benefit creates a decline in the social quality of a person's life. It doesn't allow them to make the money they should be earning to adequately provide for themselves and their family, let alone any debatable luxuries. The lack of money coming into people in the community also leads into a possible drop in living standards and can hinder the chances of our future generations having access to the best possible healthcare, education, and recreational facilities, which can prove to become a great disadvantage to our country in the future. All these can obviously affect our spending habits in a negative manner. We need to avoid the factors that can contribute to this happening at all costs. It's a very gloomy perspective, but this is the real possibility of people deciding to be on benefit by choice. And Mr. Speaker, talking about education, that students rely on this loophole for monetary gain or monetary support, the national-led government is focused on improving tertiary education, lifting achievement, increasing skills, and focusing on better outcomes for students and taxpayers. National wants to help students get the qualifications they need to succeed and play their part in growing our economy. Data from the Ministry of Education shows New Zealand students completed a record number of undergraduate degree qualifications in 2013. In 2013, 25,800 domestic students completed bachelor's degrees, an increase of around 400 on the 25,400 who completed degrees in 2012. This is 24% higher than the 20,800 who graduated in 2008. 24% higher. It shows National's focus on achieving results. It also reflects the emphasis we are placing on students achieving qualifications at higher levels that provide them with a stronger financial return on their study. Overall, the total number of qualifications achieved in the year by all students, this is including domestic and international, remained at a very high level at 162,000 and more than 20% higher than 5 years ago. The number of Maori and Pacifica students completing degrees has also climbed. The number of Maori students completing bachelor's degrees has increased from 1,960 back in 2008 to 3,180 in 2013, a 62% increase. The number of Pacifica students completing bachelor's degrees has increased from 980 in 2008 to 1,530 in 2013, a 56% increase. In 2013, over 10,000 more Maori students achieved qualifications across all levels of tertiary education than in 2008, and over 5,300 more Pacifica students did the same. National is committed to increasing achievement in the tertiary sector. Having more people achieving tertiary qualifications means a more highly skilled labor market. Higher skills mean higher paying jobs for all New Zealanders and their families. Back in 2000s, the previous government threw more and more money at tertiary education, and the number of people achieving degrees stayed around the 20,000 mark. With a focus on performance and results, we have lifted that now to almost 26,000 degrees with virtually the same amount of funding across the sector. Mr. Speaker, so this shows that students are not relying on this loophole for this monetary gain to achieve education. Mr. Speaker, I was not part of the select committee when the bill was discussed. I thank the current and past ministers for this bill and also thank the select committee for the work they have put into this bill. And I commend the bill to the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.